Could it be that ancient humans glimpsed truths about reality that we, with all our technology and modern science, are only beginning to uncover? Imagine a world where the lines between myth and measurement blur, where towering pyramids, intricate temples, and celestial alignments are not just monuments of stone, but coded messages from minds that once understood the universe in ways we struggle to comprehend. Today, we walk through cities of concrete and steel, surrounded by gadgets that calculate faster than any human mind. Yet we live largely unaware of the profound mysteries that shape existence itself. Science offers explanations, laws, formulas, observable phenomena, but there remains a haunting question. Did our ancestors perceive layers of reality that our instruments cannot yet measure? Consider the monuments left by civilizations like the Egyptians, Sumerians, and Mesoamericans. To the casual observer, these are impressive architectural feats, testaments to human ingenuity. But look closer. Alignments with the stars, proportions that echo the harmonic ratios of nature, and inscriptions that seem almost impossibly precise hint at a deeper awareness. Could these civilizations have understood principles akin to the modern concept of quantum reality, where observation affects outcome, where reality exists not as fixed, but as potential until perceived? The idea is unsettling, even audacious. Yet when we strip away the assumptions that time bound us to a linear understanding, we begin to see that ancient knowledge may not have been primitive, but profoundly sophisticated, encoded in the monuments, myths, and rituals that survive today. Science tells us that human cognition evolved slowly over millennia, shaped by survival, environment, and social complexity. Our ancestors built tools, discovered fire, and eventually developed writing, agriculture, and astronomy. These achievements are well documented and impressive. Yet the deeper question lingers. Were some ancient minds able to pierce the veil of ordinary perception, intuiting patterns and principles that our modern methods have only recently begun to formalize? In other words, could consciousness itself have served as a laboratory for discovery long before laboratories existed? The tension between what is empirically verifiable and what might be experienced through consciousness alone lies at the heart of this mystery. Legends from ancient cultures speak of beings with extraordinary wisdom, of sages who could perceive the fundamental nature of reality. In the Rig Veda, we read of cosmic vibrations that give rise to creation. In Sumerian texts, gods and humans exchange knowledge of celestial mechanics and the forces of nature. In the Tales of the Maya, cycles of time are described with astonishing precision, capturing patterns that only now, with advanced astronomy and physics, are beginning to make sense. Are these merely poetic metaphors, imaginative storytelling, or remnants of a lost scientific understanding, preserved in myth and ritual? The line is difficult to draw, and perhaps that is exactly the point. Reality itself might be stranger than our conventional distinctions of fact and fiction allow. Contrast this with the modern worldview. Today, most of us navigate life with a sense of separation from the cosmos. We see time as linear, reality as fixed, consciousness as a byproduct of matter. Our telescopes peer outward, our particle accelerators probe inward. Yet the deep questions: why is there something rather than nothing? Does consciousness shape reality? Are we alone in perceiving the universe's hidden patterns? Remain stubbornly elusive. Here lies the cinematic tension of our journey, between the evidence we can measure and the possibility that the ancient mind grasped truths that continue to elude us. The very act of considering this possibility forces a confrontation with doubt, awe, and the unknown. Imagine standing at the edge of an Egyptian pyramid at sunrise, the stones glowing in the golden light, perfectly aligned with a constellation known today as Orion's Belt. Ancient texts suggest that this alignment was not coincidental. Could it be that the builders were encoding not just astronomical knowledge, but a deeper understanding of the cosmos, a recognition of forces that modern physics only names with symbols and equations. When we view these monuments purely as historical artifacts, we admire human skill. But when we allow ourselves to consider that they might be repositories of experiential knowledge consciousness applied to the universe, we step into a realm where science, philosophy, and wonder converge. The same pattern appears across continents. In South America, the Nazca lines stretch across the desert, vast geoglyphs that depict animals, geometric shapes, and perhaps even celestial references. Scholars debate their purpose: ritual pathways, astronomical calendars, or art meant for deities above. Yet the precision, scale, and alignment provoke questions that go beyond utility. Could these be remnants of a civilization that perceived dimensions of reality inaccessible to ordinary human senses? Could consciousness, intention, and geometry have intersected to produce knowledge encoded into the very landscape itself? Modern physics teaches us that observation affects reality. That entanglement connects distant points instantaneously. That probability underlies the universe. The resonance between these principles and the enigmas of ancient monuments is uncanny and undeniably compelling. This tension between science and speculation, evidence and mystery, is central to our exploration. We are not chasing myths for their own sake, nor are we dismissing rigorous inquiry. Rather, we navigate a middle path, one that honors empirical observation while remaining open to the extraordinary. Here, cinematic storytelling serves a purpose: to immerse the audience in wonder, to juxtapose the familiar with the unimaginable, and to spark curiosity in a way that charts a trajectory from doubt toward inquiry. In this space, viewers are invited to consider possibilities that challenge the assumptions of linear progress, materialist certainty, and conventional chronology. Our journey begins at this intersection of wonder and rigor. From the awe-inspiring structures and texts of ancient civilizations, we will move into the foundations of modern science, revealing parallels and contrasts that illuminate the profound questions of existence. We will examine consciousness, the observer effect, and the very nature of reality, probing where scientific measurement meets philosophical speculation. Along the way, we will navigate skepticism, explore controversial interpretations, and imagine scenarios in which the wisdom of the ancients informs the frontiers of quantum physics and cosmic consciousness. Each step builds on the last, creating a cinematic narrative that flows from intrigue to revelation. By opening with the mystery itself, we invite the audience into a state of curiosity and contemplation. The hook is not a promise of answers, but a call to explore the unknown, to question assumptions, and to wonder at the possibility that the past contains knowledge that transcends time. Every stone, symbol, and story becomes a portal into the deeper questions of reality. Who are we? What is the nature of the universe? Could the ancient mind have perceived the quantum threads of existence before we even had the language to describe them? This is the cinematic heartbeat of our narrative, a rhythm that carries us forward into the rich, complex, and astonishing terrain of human knowledge, mystery, and imagination. As we leave this first threshold, the audience is prepared for the next layer of exploration, tracing the footsteps of knowledge itself. We will examine the evidence, both material and textual, of civilizations that might have perceived the universe in extraordinary ways. By contrasting the empirical with the speculative, we build a bridge from awe to inquiry, from mystery to method, and from wonder to philosophical engagement. The journey has begun, and the universe, both ancient and quantum, awaits our exploration. The footprints of human history are etched not only in dust and stone, but in the silent whispers of civilizations long gone. From the arid sands of Egypt to the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, from the Indus Valley's enigmatic cities to the towering pyramids of Mesoamerica, we find traces of a knowledge that seems both startlingly sophisticated and profoundly mysterious. At first glance, these ancient societies appear simple: stone tools, basic agriculture, rudimentary pottery. Yet beneath that apparent simplicity lies a pattern of achievement that defies easy explanation, a mastery of architecture, astronomy, and mathematics that rivals, and in some ways surpasses, our own modern constructions. It is here, in the contrast between the familiar and the extraordinary, that the first hints of a deeper understanding begin to emerge. Take Egypt, for instance. The pyramids of Giza have long been celebrated as architectural marvels, yet their precision is staggering. The Great Pyramid, aligned almost perfectly with true north, is constructed with such exacting measurements that the error margin is negligible across its massive scale. The weight and placement of stones, each cut and set with extraordinary care, invite questions that stretch beyond the realm of engineering. Was this precision purely practical, intended for tombs and temples? Or was it a deliberate encoding of knowledge astronomical, mathematical, and perhaps even metaphysical? The Egyptians observed the heavens with astonishing accuracy. The alignment of pyramids with stellar constellations, and the careful timing of rituals with celestial events suggest a civilization attuned not only to the cycles of the earth, but to the rhythms of the cosmos itself. Across the Fertile Crescent, the Sumerians built their cities along the Tigris and Euphrates with innovations that laid the foundation for writing, governance, and complex society. Their cuneiform tablets record not just commerce and law, but meticulous astronomical observations. They tracked the motions of planets and stars with a level of precision that allowed them to predict celestial events. Scholars debate whether this knowledge was purely observational or rooted in an understanding of underlying principles of the universe. Was it simply trial and error, refined over generations? Or did Sumerian priests glimpse patterns of cosmic order, using their rituals and mathematics to encode secrets of nature that resonate with modern physics? The question hovers, elusive and tantalizing, like the faint trace of a signal from the distant past. Meanwhile, in the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa reveal a sophistication that continues to astonish archaeologists. Streets laid out in perfect grids, advanced drainage systems, and standardized weights and measures indicate not just organizational skill, but a conceptual clarity about space, proportion, and harmony. And yet, the script of the Indus people remains undeciphered. Could these symbols conceal knowledge of fundamental principles, insights into human consciousness, or an encoded understanding of natural cycles? The gap between what we can see and what we can decode underscores a recurring theme. Ancient knowledge often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right lens of understanding to reveal a dot in Mesoamerica. The Maya and Aztec civilizations left behind towering pyramids, observatories, and intricate calendars that track celestial events with staggering accuracy. The Maya, in particular, calculated eclipses, planetary movements, and the cycles of Venus to a degree that challenges modern historians. Their knowledge appears both practical and symbolic, intertwined with ritual and mythology. Could it be that these calculations were not merely for agricultural or ceremonial purposes, but reflected a deeper grasp of temporal and spatial cycles? Perhaps these societies perceived dimensions of reality in ways that resonate with modern theories of time, entanglement, and the interconnected fabric of existence. The notion is provocative, unsettling, yet irresistibly compelling. What unites these civilizations, despite their geographical and temporal distances, is a tension between simplicity and sophistication. Stone tools and basic materials conceal monumental insight. Rudimentary instruments gave rise to precise astronomical charts. Oral traditions and mythological texts encode mathematical and geometric principles. There is a rhythm here, a pattern of human ingenuity that suggests more than mere survival or chance. Could it be that our ancestors were experimenting, observing, and intuiting the universe in ways that modern science, for all its precision, still struggles to comprehend. The contrast between the tangible artifacts and the invisible threads of insight they imply is striking, forcing us to reconsider our assumptions about progress, knowledge, and the evolution of human consciousness. Some scholars argue that we project modern sensibilities onto ancient accomplishments, interpreting coincidence as intention. They caution against attributing quantum-level insight to Stone Age societies, reminding us that survival, adaptation, and incremental learning explain much of what we see. Yet, the counterpoint is equally compelling. When patterns emerge across continents, across millennia, and across radically different cultures, coincidence becomes a less satisfying explanation. The architectural harmony of the pyramids, the precise celestial tracking of Sumerian astronomers, the urban planning of the Indus Valley, the astronomical calculations of the Maya, all of these suggest a convergence of observation, intuition, and perhaps a deeper consciousness at work. Whether we call it proto-science, sacred geometry, or ancient wisdom, the evidence invites contemplation. It is worth noting that knowledge in these ancient contexts was rarely separated from ritual, myth, or cosmology. Science, as we understand it, was not divorced from philosophy, art, or spirituality. Instead, it was woven into the cultural fabric, inseparable from questions of meaning and existence. The precision of a temple's alignment or the complexity of a calendar was simultaneously practical, symbolic, and metaphysical. Could it be that ancient humans experienced reality in a more integrated way than we do today, perceiving mathematics, astronomy, and consciousness as interconnected threads rather than isolated disciplines? This holistic approach challenges modern assumptions, suggesting that what we consider advanced scientific insight may once have been inseparable from the human experience of wonder and meaning. Consider the possibility that these civilizations were engaging with reality at multiple levels simultaneously: the observable, the symbolic, and the metaphysical. When we examine a Sumerian tablet, we see numbers and symbols. But perhaps those numbers encoded patterns of resonance or cycles of time, hints at relationships between consciousness and cosmos. When we study the layout of Mohenjo-Daro, we see grids and streets. Yet perhaps those grids reflected an understanding of harmony, proportion, and spatial order that resonates with universal principles. When we gaze upon the Maya calendar, we see a cycle of years and planets. Yet perhaps it was a map of temporal patterns, cycles within cycles, that mirrors the subtle rhythms of reality itself. Across these civilizations, the line between observation and insight blurs, and the distinction between human ingenuity and cosmic understanding becomes tantalizingly uncertain. Bridging the gap between what is observable and what is speculative requires a careful dance. We can admire the skill and intelligence of these cultures without leaping to unwarranted conclusions. Yet we must also remain open to possibilities that challenge conventional wisdom. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not merely what ancient humans knew, but how they knew it. Was it through meticulous observation, ritualized practice, and iterative learning? Or was it through a form of consciousness that allowed them to perceive connections that modern science can only model mathematically? This question sets the stage for the next chapter of exploration: the foundations of reality as revealed by modern physics, where parallels between ancient insight and quantum understanding begin to emerge. By tracing the footsteps of knowledge, we witness a continuity that defies linear history. The past is not simply a sequence of technological advancements. It is a tapestry of inquiry, observation, and intuition. We see humans grappling with the same ultimate questions that still occupy our own minds. What is the nature of the universe? How are we connected to it? Can consciousness perceive realities beyond the immediate senses? The evidence, while fragmentary, points toward an intriguing possibility: that ancient civilizations, in their own ways, were engaging with the cosmos not just as observers, but as participants in an intricate dance of knowledge and meaning. As we move forward, the focus shifts from the physical artifacts of human ingenuity to the invisible structures of reality itself. We will explore the principles of quantum physics, the strange behavior of particles and waves, and the mind-bending implications of consciousness interacting with matter. The connection between ancient insight and modern discovery is not yet clear, but the path is illuminated by the patterns, alignments, and symbols left behind. Each stone, tablet, and pyramid becomes a clue in a narrative that spans millennia, a story in which human curiosity, intelligence, and perhaps even intuition probe the deepest questions of existence. In this journey, the line between science and speculation, evidence and imagination, begins to blur, inviting us to wonder what our ancestors may have known long before we had the language or instruments to measure it. From the monumental architecture of ancient civilizations, our journey moves inward into the very fabric of reality itself. Imagine shrinking the scale of existence, not merely to the level of human perception, but to the microscopic and subatomic, where matter behaves in ways that defy intuition. This is the realm of quantum physics, where certainty gives way to possibility, where particles can exist in multiple states at once, and where the act of observation may alter the universe itself. At first glance, quantum theory seems remote from the pyramids or the Sumerian tablets we explored earlier. Yet as we peer deeper, we discover patterns, symbols, and principles that echo across time, suggesting that reality is far stranger and more interconnected than our classical understanding allows. In classical physics, as Newton envisioned, the universe operates like a precise machine. Planets orbit predictably, objects fall with measurable force, and cause and effect seems absolute. This worldview reassured humanity with its apparent clarity and predictability. But beneath the surface of matter, beyond the scale of the macroscopic, this certainty dissolves. Electrons do not orbit atoms like miniature planets. They exist as probability clouds, spreading across space, simultaneously here and there, nowhere and everywhere until measured. This is superposition, a particle in multiple states at once, a reality defined by potential rather than fixed position. It is a concept that seems almost mystical, yet it is experimentally verified, forming the foundation of modern quantum mechanics. The story becomes even more astonishing with entanglement. Two particles, separated by vast distances, can remain mysteriously connected, influencing one another instantaneously. Change one here, and the other responds there, as if reality itself is woven from invisible threads that defy conventional space and time. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance, struggling to reconcile it with his deterministic worldview. Yet repeated experiments confirm it. The universe at its most fundamental level is interconnected, and locality, the idea that objects are only influenced by their immediate surroundings, is an illusion. Here, we encounter the first cinematic contrast between ancient intuition and modern discovery. Many symbolic systems of antiquity, mandalas, sacred geometry, and the Ouroboros hint at a universe of wholeness, cycles, and connection, a vision that resonates uncannily with the entangled quantum web we are only now beginning to quantify. Then there is the observer effect, a principle both elegant and profoundly unsettling. At the quantum level, particles exist in a haze of probabilities, their exact state undefined. It is the act of observation that collapses this haze into a definite outcome. The universe, it seems, is not merely a stage upon which events unfold. It is responsive, participatory, and, in a subtle way, conscious. Consciousness and reality intersect here in ways that ancient wisdom often hinted at. The idea that perception shapes existence, that knowledge and being are intertwined, that the act of knowing alters what is known. Could it be that some ancient civilizations intuited these principles through meditation, ritual, and symbolic practice, long before microscopes or particle accelerators could confirm them. The parallels are tantalizing, a bridge across millennia connecting human curiosity with the fundamental laws of nature. The feat across millennia connecting human curiosity with the fundamental laws of nature. Holographic principle deepens the mystery even further. Imagine that the entirety of the three-dimensional universe could be encoded on a distant, two-dimensional surface, a cosmic projection in which all matter, energy, and information exist as patterns rather than as solid, independent objects. This principle emerges from modern attempts to reconcile gravity with quantum mechanics, suggesting that space itself may be emergent, and reality, at its core, is information. Ancient symbolic systems often describe the universe as an interplay of patterns, cycles and reflections, yin and yang, the tree of life, the Fibonacci spirals and shells in galaxies. The resemblance between ancient insight and modern theoretical physics is uncanny, inviting a question both scientific and philosophical. Could human consciousness, across history, have perceived the underlying informational structure of reality in symbolic, experiential terms? The parallels do not end with abstract theory. Consider the mathematics embedded in these quantum phenomena. Probability amplitudes, wave functions, matrices, and tensor networks encode the potentialities of particles, just as ancient civilizations encoded patterns of knowledge in architecture, myth, and ritual. Could the Sumerians' precise astronomical tables, the Egyptians' harmonic ratios and pyramid construction, or the Maya cyclical calendars represent more than utility? Perhaps they capture, in symbolic or ritual form, the underlying rhythms and probabilities of the cosmos, itself a reflection of the same order and uncertainty that quantum mechanics now describes in the language of mathematics. The contrast is stark, yet compelling. Science formalizes these patterns numerically, while ancient wisdom expresses them visually, narratively, and ritually, both seeking to comprehend the unobservable structures of reality. Yet quantum physics is not only abstract. It has profound philosophical implications. If particles exist in multiple states until observed, if entanglement connects distant points instantaneously, if the universe itself can be described as information, then what is reality? Is it objective or is it participatory? Is the cosmos merely a backdrop for matter, or is consciousness an intrinsic component of existence? These questions echo the inquiries of sages, mystics, and philosophers throughout history, suggesting that the mysteries of quantum mechanics may be not just physical, but existential. Human beings, it seems, have always sought to peer beyond appearances, to reconcile perception with reality, to understand the subtle structures that govern existence. Quantum mechanics, in this sense, can be seen as a modern map of terrain that human consciousness has long attempted to explore. The tension between Newtonian certainty and quantum uncertainty mirrors the tension we see in ancient knowledge itself. On one hand, empirical observation produces tangible results. The pyramids stand, the tablets record cycles, the calendars track celestial events. On the other hand, the subtle structures and hidden principles embedded within these achievements hint at something far deeper, a knowledge that exceeds mere measurement, a glimpse of the probabilistic, interconnected, and participatory universe. In this contrast, we find the cinematic heartbeat of discovery, the interplay between what is known and what is possible, between evidence and imagination, between history and physics, between material reality and consciousness. Storytelling through contrast becomes crucial. Classical mechanics offers reassurance, predictability, and a tangible framework. Quantum mechanics introduces uncertainty, paradox, and non-locality. Ancient knowledge presents itself as both practical and symbolic, tangible and mysterious. By juxtaposing these perspectives, we begin to see that our ancestors might not have been primitive as often portrayed. They were observers of subtle patterns, codifiers of cosmic rhythms, and perhaps explorers of consciousness itself. They encoded knowledge in forms we are only beginning to interpret, hinting at a continuity between human insight and the deepest structures of reality. It is tempting to dismiss these parallels as coincidence, to insist that the mystical overtones of ancient symbolism are merely poetic. Yet when patterns recur across cultures, epochs, and continents, coincidence becomes an inadequate explanation. Alignments with celestial events, repeated ratios in architecture, encoded cycles in mythology suggest a deliberate engagement with reality that goes beyond survival or utility. Whether through intuition, ritual, or experiential insight, ancient humans may have glimpsed principles of existence that modern physics now models mathematically. The resonance between the symbolic, the mathematical, and the experimental invites a reconsideration of knowledge itself, that science and consciousness, measurement and perception, may be complementary facets of a single quest to understand reality. Even the counterintuitive aspects of quantum mechanics, superposition, entanglement, and observer effects find echoes in ancient thought. The idea that one can hold multiple states of possibility simultaneously is reflected in metaphysical teachings that emphasize paradox and duality, light and shadow, creation and destruction, life and death as intertwined realities. The notion of instantaneous connection across space resonates with spiritual concepts of unity, interdependence, and cosmic oneness. And the observer effect, where perception collapses potential into reality, mirrors countless teachings on mindfulness, meditation, and intentionality. The contrasts are striking. Modern physics formalizes these phenomena with equations. Ancient wisdom encodes them in myth, ritual, and geometry. Both are attempts to map the unseen architecture of existence. As we navigate this terrain, a profound question emerges. Could the insights of ancient civilizations and the discoveries of modern quantum physics be two expressions of the same underlying reality? One encoded in stone, myth, and symbol, the other in mathematics, experimentation, and observation. If so, the divide between past and present, between science and philosophy, begins to dissolve. Reality reveals itself not as a fixed, linear construct, but as a participatory, probabilistic, and deeply interconnected tapestry. The patterns our ancestors observed, consciously or intuitively, resonate across time, suggesting that the human drive to comprehend the cosmos has always been guided by an awareness of structures deeper than the eye can see. By exploring these foundations, we prepare to venture further into the intersection of consciousness and reality. Quantum physics provides not only the scientific framework, but also the philosophical lens through which we can reconsider ancient knowledge. It bridges the material and the metaphysical, offering a vocabulary for phenomena that were once described symbolically, allegorically, and ritually. The next step in our journey is to examine consciousness itself, the observer, the participant, the perceiver who collapses probabilities into experience. Here, the dialogue between ancient intuition and modern understanding becomes most compelling, illuminating the subtle interplay between mind and matter that has fascinated humanity for millennia. What if the act of perception does more than simply record reality? What if consciousness is not a passive witness, but an active participant in the unfolding of the universe? In the strange and counterintuitive realm of quantum mechanics, this is not mere speculation. It is a principle encoded in the very fabric of reality. The observer effect suggests that the act of measurement collapses probabilities into definite outcomes. Until observed, particles exist in a haze of potential, their reality undefined, existing in a multitude of simultaneous possibilities. Only through interaction, through consciousness, does one possibility crystallize into experience. It is a concept that challenges our most basic assumptions about existence, asking whether the universe is objective, or whether it is inseparable from those who observe it. Mainstream science approaches this idea cautiously. Many physicists emphasize the role of instruments rather than the mind, arguing that measurement does not require consciousness, only interaction with a system capable of registering change. Yet this explanation, while consistent with empirical data, leaves room for wonder. For centuries, philosophers and mystics have proposed that consciousness is central to the universe itself. In Buddhist, Vedic, and Hermetic traditions, the observer is not separate from what is observed. The act of awareness participates in creation. Reality, in this view, is not a static stage but a living, responsive tapestry, where intention, attention, and perception shape the world in ways science is only beginning to glimpse. Anecdotes from meditative and mystical traditions provide striking parallels. Yogis describe experiences of timelessness and unity, where the distinction between observer and observed dissolves. Shamans speak of visions in which consciousness traverses vast networks of energy, perceiving connections invisible to the ordinary senses. These reports are often dismissed as metaphorical or hallucinatory, yet they echo the observer effect on a human scale. The mind is both perceiver and influencer, capable of shifting reality by the very act of engagement. Could these experiences be glimpses of a universal principle, intuitively apprehended long before laboratories and particle accelerators provided evidence? Consider the phenomenon of altered perception of time and space. In states of deep meditation or trance, practitioners report that past, present, and future converge. That distances shrink or dissolve, that events appear interconnected in a web of causality beyond linear comprehension. Modern physics mirrors these experiences in surprising ways. Entanglement connects particles instantaneously across vast distances. And in certain interpretations of quantum mechanics, time itself may be more flexible and emergent than our everyday experience suggests. The resonance between subjective experience and scientific theory raises a provocative possibility. That consciousness is a lens, a bridge, a fundamental component of the universe, rather than a mere epiphenomenon of biology. Speculative theories have emerged, attempting to formalize the link between mind and matter. Some physicists and philosophers propose that consciousness collapses wave functions, directly influencing the behavior of quantum systems. Others suggest that the universe is a participatory process in which observation and awareness are inseparable from the unfolding of events. These ideas, while controversial, provide a conceptual bridge between ancient metaphysics and modern science. They imply that knowledge is not confined to instruments or calculations, but is embedded in the act of perception itself, a principle that human civilizations may have explored long before the first quantum experiments were conceived. Ancient practices, whether ritual, contemplative, or symbolic, often encoded techniques for accessing altered states of awareness. From the pyramids of Egypt to the sacred geometry of the Maya, structures and symbols were designed to harmonize perception, align consciousness with cosmic rhythms, and facilitate experiences beyond ordinary reality. Could these practices have allowed humans to perceive subtle layers of the universe, dimensions of causality, energy, or probability, hidden from conventional senses? The contrast between ancient experiential insight and modern empirical measurement is striking. Science provides reproducible, objective data, while ancient wisdom offers phenomenological insight, subjective, yet potentially revealing fundamental truths about the interplay of mind and matter. The observer effect also carries profound philosophical implications. If reality is partially contingent on consciousness, then the universe is participatory, co-created by those who perceive it. This challenges reductionist notions that see reality as fully independent and deterministic. It invites us to consider our role not as passive inhabitants of a predetermined cosmos, but as active agents whose awareness shapes the unfolding of events. In this sense, consciousness is both a window and a tool, allowing us to perceive the architecture of existence while influencing it through attention, intention, and presence. The idea is at once empowering and unsettling, collapsing the comfortable separation between self and universe. Skepticism is necessary. It is easy to conflate metaphor with mechanism, to romanticize ancient practices without acknowledging the limitations of anecdotal evidence. Yet the pattern persists. Across cultures, across time, humans have developed methods for expanding awareness, exploring perception, and engaging with reality in ways that hint at principles echoed in quantum physics. The repetition of these practices suggests more than coincidence. It hints at an underlying truth, that consciousness is not merely a bystander, but a participant in the dance of existence, capable of glimpsing structures and connections that defy conventional explanation. Scientific inquiry continues to probe these questions with growing sophistication. Experiments in quantum biology suggest that even biological systems may exploit quantum effects, blurring the line between matter and consciousness. Studies of perception and cognition reveal that the brain does not passively record reality, but actively constructs it, integrating information in ways that affect outcomes. These findings echo ancient intuitions. Reality is participatory, perception is creative, and consciousness is entangled with the very fabric of existence. The boundary between observer and observed, far from being absolute, is dynamic, porous, and deeply mysterious. Meditative traditions often describe the cultivation of awareness as a method for accessing these hidden layers. By quieting the mind and focusing attention, practitioners report the dissolution of ego, the perception of interconnection, and the experience of reality as fluid rather than fixed. Modern neuroscience provides partial validation. Brain states associated with meditation alter perception of time, enhance connectivity, and modulate sensory experience. While these findings do not prove mystical claims, they suggest that consciousness is not a passive mirror, but an active participant, capable of influencing perception and, potentially, aspects of reality itself. The tension between skepticism and speculation is central to this exploration. On one side, rigorous empirical science demands reproducibility, quantifiable measurement, and clear mechanisms. On the other, the mysteries of consciousness, perception, and the observer effect defy straightforward measurement. Ancient civilizations, with their meditative practices, ritualized observations, and symbolic systems, may have operated in this liminal space-bridging experience and insight, intuition, and observation. By studying both the subjective and the objective, we can begin to appreciate the profound ways in which consciousness interacts with reality, and how human understanding has always sought to navigate that intersection. This exploration naturally raises profound questions about human potential. If consciousness participates in shaping reality, then the limits of human perception may not be fixed. Our ancestors, through observation, ritual, and symbolic practice, may have accessed aspects of reality that elude conventional senses. Could ancient knowledge systems, from sacred geometry to oral traditions, encode principles of perception that align with modern quantum insights? Could meditation, intention, and ritual have functioned as tools for expanding awareness, allowing humans to interact with reality on multiple levels simultaneously? These questions bridge the philosophical and the scientific, the speculative and the empirical, inviting us to reconsider the boundaries of knowledge and the scope of human experience. Ultimately, consciousness and the observer effect compel us to rethink what it means to engage with reality. They suggest that perception is not merely a passive act, but a participatory process where awareness interacts with potential, collapses uncertainty, and shapes the unfolding of events. Ancient civilizations may have intuited these principles long before quantum mechanics formalized them in equations, encoding their insights in myth, geometry, and ritual. The tension between skepticism and speculation, evidence and mystery, creates a cinematic landscape of inquiry, one in which the human mind is both explorer and instrument, capable of glimpsing dimensions of reality that extend beyond the visible, the measurable, and the familiar. As we conclude this exploration, the stage is set for the next chapter, examining the symbolic and textual evidence of ancient wisdom, and how myths, scriptures, and esoteric teachings may encode insights about reality, consciousness, and the hidden structures of the cosmos. By moving from experiential consciousness to the stories and symbols crafted by civilizations across time, we begin to see how observation, perception, and understanding were woven into the cultural fabric, offering a bridge between human intuition and the deepest mysteries of existence. The journey continues from the observer within to the symbols that reflect the universe itself. Across time and geography, human civilizations have left behind not just monuments, but stories, myths, scriptures, and esoteric texts that have captivated and confounded scholars for centuries. At first glance, these texts read like allegory, moral guidance, or poetic cosmology. Yet, when examined through the lens of quantum theory, startling parallels emerge. Non-local connections, cyclical patterns, and multidimensional frameworks appear embedded in language, metaphor, and ritual. Could it be that ancient authors, through intuition or experience, encoded principles of reality that we now approach with mathematics and laboratory experiments? The idea challenges conventional scholarship, demanding that we navigate between literal interpretation and symbolic meaning, between historical context and timeless insight. Consider the Rig Veda, one of humanity's oldest surviving texts. Its hymns describe creation as vibration, the universe emerging from primordial sound, from resonance that shapes matter, energy, and consciousness. Modern physics, of course, teaches us that vibrations and waves underlie reality, that particles oscillate, and that fields ripple with probabilistic potential. Is it coincidence that the Vedic sages spoke of a universe arising from vibrational patterns? Or is this an allegorical expression of experiential insight into fundamental principles that quantum theory formalizes today? The contrast between poetic language and empirical formalism illustrates a recurring tension. The same truth may be expressed as myth, meditation, or mathematical equation, depending on the lens of perception. In Sumerian and Babylonian texts, we encounter detailed accounts of celestial cycles, divine interactions, and temporal patterns. These myths describe gods whose actions ripple across space and time, affecting distant realms instantaneously. From a modern perspective, one cannot help but notice an echo of quantum non-locality, the instantaneous correlations between entangled particles, unaffected by spatial separation. Could the symbolic language of gods, stars, and cosmic forces encode experiential understanding of reality's interconnectedness? The literal reading might see folklore, while the allegorical reading suggests an ancient grappling with the fabric of existence itself. In this way, myth becomes not a mere story, but a map of hidden structures, a bridge between consciousness and cosmos. Mesoamerican codices and oral traditions provide further examples. The Maya, for instance, describe multiple planes of existence, each layered above or below the other, interconnected yet distinct. Their calendars encode cycles within cycles, temporal harmonics that predict eclipses, planetary alignments, and even social patterns. Viewed literally, these accounts function as astronomical tools. Viewed symbolically, they suggest a multidimensional understanding of reality, a perception of time and space not as linear absolutes, but as intertwined, nested, and cyclical. Quantum physics, with its superpositions and multiple potential states, offers a modern echo. The universe may contain overlapping possibilities, and reality emerges through interaction, observation, and relational patterns. In this context, ancient texts can be read as experiential almanacs of existence, rather than simple instruction manuals. Egyptian texts add yet another layer of intrigue. The Book of the Dead, for example, contains detailed instructions for navigating the afterlife. Yet these instructions often describe processes that resonate with quantum principles. Souls are depicted as traversing multiple planes, existing simultaneously in potential and actual forms, interacting with cosmic forces whose behavior transcends ordinary causality. Alchemical and Hermetic writings from later periods echo similar ideas. Transformation, transmutation, and the interplay of opposites mirror notions of duality, superposition, and probability. Could these esoteric texts encode intuitive insight into reality, rather than serving solely as spiritual guidance? The possibility challenges our modern categorization of knowledge into scientific and mystical, hinting at a continuum in which consciousness, observation, and principle converge. The symbolism within these texts often conveys knowledge indirectly, requiring interpretation, contemplation, and experience. Sacred geometry, for instance, appears across cultures, from the flower of life in Egypt to yantras in India, from Mayan temple layouts to Gothic cathedral designs. These patterns encode mathematical ratios, harmonics, and proportions that reflect universal order. They also hint at multidimensionality. Structures that appear two-dimensional on a plane may represent deeper spatial or temporal relationships. Just as quantum theory describes particles in probabilistic fields rather than fixed orbits, these symbolic systems present reality as relational, dynamic, and interconnected. Yet, when examined through the lens of quantum theory, startling parallels emerge. Non-local connections, cyclical patterns, and multidimensional frameworks appear embedded in language, metaphor, and ritual. Could it be that ancient authors, through intuition or experience, encoded principles of reality that we now approach with mathematics and laboratory experiments? The idea challenges conventional scholarship, demanding that we navigate between literal interpretation and symbolic meaning, between historical context and timeless insight. Consider the Rig Veda, one of humanity's oldest surviving texts. Its hymns describe creation as vibration, the universe emerging from primordial sound, from resonance that shapes matter, energy, and consciousness. Modern physics, of course, teaches us that vibrations and waves underlie reality, that particles oscillate, and that fields ripple with probabilistic potential. Is it coincidence that the Vedic sages spoke of a universe arising from vibrational patterns? Or is this an allegorical expression of experiential insight into fundamental principles that quantum theory formalizes today? The contrast between poetic language and empirical formalism illustrates a recurring tension. The same truth may be expressed as myth, meditation, or mathematical equation, depending on the lens of perception. In Sumerian and Babylonian texts, we encounter detailed accounts of celestial cycles, divine interactions, and temporal patterns. These myths describe gods whose actions ripple across space and time, affecting distant realms instantaneously. From a modern perspective, one cannot help but notice an echo of quantum non-locality, the instantaneous correlations between entangled particles, unaffected by spatial separation. Could the symbolic language of gods, stars, and cosmic forces encode experiential understanding of reality's interconnectedness? The literal reading might see folklore, while the allegorical reading suggests an ancient grappling with the fabric of existence itself. In this way, myth becomes not a mere story, but a map of hidden structures, a bridge between consciousness and cosmos. Mesoamerican codices and oral traditions provide further examples. The Maya, for instance, describe multiple planes of existence, each layered above or below the other, interconnected yet distinct. Their calendars encode cycles within cycles, temporal harmonics that predict eclipses, planetary alignments, and even social patterns. Viewed literally, these accounts function as astronomical tools. Viewed symbolically, they suggest a multidimensional understanding of reality, a perception of time and space not as linear absolutes, but as intertwined, nested, and cyclical. Quantum physics, with its superpositions and multiple potential states, offers a modern echo. The universe may contain overlapping possibilities, and reality emerges through interaction, observation, and relational patterns. In this context, ancient texts can be read as experiential almanacs of existence, rather than simple instruction manuals. Egyptian texts add yet another layer of intrigue. The Book of the Dead, for example, contains detailed instructions for navigating the afterlife. Yet these instructions often describe processes that resonate with quantum principles. Souls are depicted as traversing multiple planes, existing simultaneously in potential and actual forms, interacting with cosmic forces whose behavior transcends ordinary causality. Alchemical and Hermetic writings from later periods echo similar ideas. Transformation, transmutation, and the interplay of opposites mirror notions of duality, superposition, and probability. Could these esoteric texts encode intuitive insight into reality, rather than serving solely as spiritual guidance? The possibility challenges our modern categorization of knowledge into scientific and mystical, hinting at a continuum in which consciousness, observation, and principle converge. The symbolism within these texts often conveys knowledge indirectly, requiring interpretation, contemplation, and experience. Sacred geometry, for instance, appears across cultures, from the flower of life in Egypt to yantras in India, from Mayan temple layouts to Gothic cathedral designs. These patterns encode mathematical ratios, harmonics, and proportions that reflect universal order. They also hint at multidimensionality. Structures that appear two-dimensional on a plane may represent deeper spatial or temporal relationships. Just as quantum theory describes particles in probabilistic fields rather than fixed orbits, these symbolic systems present reality as relational, dynamic, and interconnected. The distinction is crucial. Literal readings of geometry emphasize aesthetics or ritual, while allegorical readings suggest encoded experiential insight into the underlying principles of existence. One cannot overlook the Tao Te Ching in this context. Laozi's verses describe reality as fluid, complementary, and paradoxical. The interplay of yin and yang, the balance of opposites, and the emergence of form from formlessness. Quantum physics, with its dual wave, ultimately, the study of ancient texts through the lens of quantum allegory does not seek definitive proof of scientific knowledge, but rather invites us into a dialogue across time. By comparing symbolic language, ritualized practice, and allegorical narrative with the principles of modern physics, we glimpse a continuity of human inquiry, a persistent attempt to understand reality, consciousness, and the cosmos. The distinction between literal and metaphorical, scientific and mystical, begins to dissolve. Patterns emerge that suggest a shared intuition. Reality is probabilistic, interconnected, multidimensional, and participatory. What the ancients expressed through story, symbol, and ritual, modern science expresses through equations, experiments, and theory. As we conclude this exploration, the bridge between ancient texts and modern science becomes clear. Both are attempts to map the unobservable, to encode what cannot be directly perceived, and to navigate the profound mysteries of existence. Myths, scriptures, and esoteric writings offer a window into human cognition and perception, suggesting that even millennia ago, minds were probing the boundaries of reality, consciousness, and cosmic structure. The stage is now set to explore another dimension of this investigation: the physical manifestations of knowledge in megaliths, monuments, and sacred geometry, where human ingenuity, mathematics, and perhaps even metaphysical insight converge. Here, the abstract allegories of text intersect with tangible structures, further revealing the depths of human engagement with the cosmos across the globe. Monumental structures rise from the earth, silent witnesses to civilizations long gone. The pyramids of Giza, the circular stone formations of Stonehenge, the sprawling city of Teotihuacan, they are tangible echoes of human ingenuity. Yet they provoke questions that extend far beyond conventional engineering. At first glance, they are marvels of construction, testaments to skill, labor, and mathematical knowledge. But as we examine them more closely, a more profound mystery emerges. These monuments may encode not just practical knowledge, but subtle insights into the cosmos, consciousness, and the nature of reality itself. Consider the Great Pyramid of Giza. Built over 4,500 years ago, its precision remains astonishing. Each block, some weighing several tons, was cut, transported, and aligned with a level of accuracy that modern equipment struggles to replicate. Its orientation to true north deviates by only a fraction of a degree, and its proportions reflect the mathematical constant pi when considered in relation to its perimeter and height. Conventional explanations suggest meticulous observation, trial and error construction, and masterful surveying techniques. Yet these accounts leave many questions unresolved. How could a society without advanced machinery achieve such geometric perfection? And why was such precision so crucial? Could the answer lie not just in human skill, but in a deeper understanding of energy, resonance, or consciousness-based alignment with the earth and sky? Stonehenge presents another enigma. The massive stones, some transported from hundreds of miles away, are arranged in a circular formation aligned with the solstices. Scholars interpret this alignment as a sophisticated calendar or astronomical observatory. But the site's geometric precision, the positioning of lintels, and the interplay of angles suggest more than practical function. Could it have been designed to harness energy in ways we do not yet comprehend? Some researchers propose that Stonehenge may have acted as a resonance system, amplifying sound or vibrational energy. Others speculate that its arrangement was intended to facilitate altered states of consciousness, allowing observers to synchronize with cosmic rhythms. Whether metaphorical or literal, these possibilities invite awe and compel us to reconsider the limits of ancient knowledge. Teotihuacan, the sprawling ancient city of the Americas, offers yet another layer of mystery. The Pyramid of the Sun, aligned with the Pleiades constellation, dominates the city's layout, while the Avenue of the Dead bisects the urban grid with precise orientation. Scholars debate whether these alignments were purely symbolic, tied to religious beliefs, or evidence of advanced astronomical observation. The repeated use of ratios, geometric patterns, and orthogonal grids hints at a sophisticated mathematical framework. Could the planners of Teotihuacan have intuited principles of cosmic order, embedding knowledge of cycles, resonance, or even multidimensionality into urban design? The city becomes more than a habitat. It transforms into a cosmogram, a map of celestial and terrestrial order, reflecting an understanding that merges observation, mathematics, and possibly consciousness itself. Mathematical precision is a common thread in these monumental constructions. Ratios such as the golden mean appear across continents and epochs, from the pyramids to Greek temples, from Gothic cathedrals to Hindu mandalas. Sacred geometry, the study of these mathematical harmonies, suggests that ancient civilizations were not merely building functional structures, but aligning human-made forms with the underlying order of the universe. These patterns are not arbitrary. They echo natural harmonics found in shells, flowers, and celestial orbits. Could it be that the builders of megaliths understood principles of resonance, proportion, and energy that transcend mere measurement? Were they tuning their creations to the frequencies of the cosmos, embedding knowledge of universal patterns into stone and space? Resonance theory offers a fascinating lens. Some researchers propose that certain structures were designed to interact with natural energy fields, sound waves, or electromagnetic forces. Experimental studies on ancient temples and megalithic sites suggest that architectural features could amplify vibrations, channel energy, or create acoustic phenomena that influence perception and consciousness. If true, these structures function not only as physical landmarks, but as instruments for engaging with subtle forces. The idea is speculative, yet compelling. Monuments as tools, amplifiers of awareness, or gateways to altered perception. In this light, architecture is no longer purely practical. It becomes participatory, a bridge between human intent, cosmic order, and consciousness itself. Contrast these speculative ideas with conventional explanations. Historians and engineers emphasize labor organization, incremental innovation, and empirical observation. They highlight the ingenuity of ancient humans without invoking mystical or energy-based frameworks. These interpretations are grounded, rational, and measurable. Yet they leave gaps. How were extraordinary feats of precision achieved without advanced technology? Why do similar geometric patterns, ratios, and alignments appear across distant cultures with no apparent contact? The tension between measurable fact and speculative awe is cinematic. It invites us to question the limits of what is possible and challenges our understanding of ancient human capability. In examining megaliths, we also confront the concept of multidimensionality. Some structures suggest an awareness of spatial relationships beyond immediate perception. Intersections of angles, layering of planes, and alignments with celestial events may encode higher dimensional thinking, reflecting cycles, rotations, and harmonics that transcend the three-dimensional world. Consider the orientation of pyramids, the patterning of stone circles, or the urban grids of ancient cities. These are not random. They indicate intention, knowledge, and possibly a conceptualization of space and time that mirrors principles now explored in physics. Could ancient architects, consciously or intuitively, have mapped not just the material world, but the subtle architecture of reality itself? Human consciousness may have been integral to these feats. Ancient texts and oral traditions describe rituals, meditation, and ceremonial practices conducted within these monuments. Observers and participants may have been guided to experience altered states, perceiving patterns, cycles, and resonances otherwise inaccessible. Could the builder's knowledge have been experiential, embedded in the act of creating and inhabiting these spaces? The monuments then become both canvas and instrument, tangible forms shaped by intent, mathematics, and consciousness. This interplay between human perception and architectural form blurs the line between practical engineering and experiential science. Stone by stone, block by block, ancient monuments encode both measurable knowledge and speculative insight. The Great Pyramid's dimensions correspond to astronomical constants. Stonehenge resonates with the sun and moon. Teotihuacan aligns with stellar cycles. These are testable facts. Yet the deeper question persists. Why were these patterns encoded in stone, rather than recorded solely in text? The answer may lie in the experiential dimension. Physical form amplifies perception, aligning mind, body, and cosmos. Geometry becomes a tool, resonance a medium, and consciousness a catalyst. The monuments transform from passive relics to active participants in a dialogue with reality. This cinematic tension between the observable and the speculative invites awe. We are compelled to imagine the minds behind these structures, envisioning architects and priests attuned to cosmic patterns, understanding mathematics as a language of reality, intuition as a tool for insight, and perception as a bridge to universal laws. Conventional explanations emphasize human ingenuity, yet the extraordinary precision, alignment, and mathematical sophistication hint at knowledge that transcends survival or utility. It suggests a human drive to connect with the cosmos, to encode awareness of unseen patterns into enduring, monumental forms. Sacred geometry provides a unifying principle. Circles, spirals, tetrahedra, and harmonic ratios appear in megaliths, temples, and urban grids across the globe. These forms reflect both natural order and metaphysical symbolism, bridging observation and philosophy. They hint at principles of resonance, proportion, and energy concepts that modern physics explores through waves, frequencies, and harmonic oscillations. Could it be that ancient builders were experimenting with these principles, intuitively or consciously, encoding knowledge in tangible, lasting forms? If so, megaliths are not simply monuments. They are instruments, laboratories, and symbolic expressions of humanity's engagement with reality. The comparison between measurable fact and speculative hypothesis is central to the cinematic narrative. On one hand, we have precise measurements, alignments, and documented techniques testable, replicable, empirical. On the other hand, we encounter resonance theories, consciousness-based alignment, and metaphysical interpretation suggestive, experiential, and intangible. Both dimensions coexist, creating a layered understanding of human achievement. By embracing this tension, we gain not only knowledge of what was accomplished, but a sense of why, the desire to harmonize with the cosmos, to encode understanding, and to bridge the visible and invisible dot. Ancient monuments also speak to the universality of human curiosity and aspiration. Despite geographic separation, cultures independently develop precise geometry, astronomical alignment, and symbolic expression. From the pyramids of Egypt to the stone circles of Britain, from Teotihuacan to Angkor Wat, patterns recur. Could this be coincidence, convergence, or evidence of a shared insight into the cosmos? The recurrence amplifies intrigue, suggesting that human cognition, observation, and perhaps consciousness consistently sought to map the underlying order of reality. These structures, enduring across millennia, serve as both evidence and inspiration, challenging modern observers to reconcile empirical knowledge with the possibility of lost insight. Ultimately, megaliths, monuments, and mathematical mysteries embody a duality: the measurable and the mystical, the empirical and the experiential, the material and the metaphysical. They invite us to explore human ingenuity alongside the deeper dimensions of awareness. Each stone, alignment, and geometric ratio becomes a point of connection between observation, mathematics, and consciousness. By studying these structures, we confront the limits of our understanding, acknowledging both what can be measured and what remains tantalizingly elusive. The cinematic effect is powerful. These monuments are silent teachers, inviting viewers to engage with the mystery of human potential, the architecture of the cosmos, and the interplay between mind, matter, and the infinite dot. As we leave the monuments behind, the journey naturally transitions to understanding the evolution of human consciousness itself. From external manifestations in stone to internal landscapes of thought, perception, and awareness, we explore how ancient humans not only built in harmony with the cosmos, but also conceived of reality in ways that might have transcended conventional sensory experience. The stage is set to examine the cognitive and symbolic development that allowed humans to perceive, encode, and interact with these profound patterns, bridging the material with the mental, the observable with the speculative, and the finite with the infinite dot to understand the extraordinary feats of ancient civilizations. We must turn inward into the evolution of human consciousness itself. The journey begins with the human brain, a biological instrument sculpted over millions of years. Early hominins navigated a world of predators, climate shifts, and scarce resources, relying on sensory perception and basic problem solving. But at some point, the brain expanded, both physically and functionally, enabling symbolic thought, abstract reasoning, and the capacity for imagination. With these developments came the emergence of culture, ritual, and language, a cognitive revolution that allowed humans not merely to survive, but to conceptualize reality, encode knowledge, and ponder the cosmos. The archaeological record provides glimpses of this evolution. Cave paintings, carved figurines, and ornamental artifacts indicate that early humans were capable of representing ideas, emotions, and abstract concepts symbolically. The Lascaux caves in France, with their vivid depictions of animals and dynamic motion, reveal a capacity for narrative and imagination that extends beyond immediate survival needs. Similarly, engraved ochre pieces from Blombos Cave in South Africa suggest that symbolic thought existed tens of thousands of years ago. These creations reflect an internal landscape that is no longer strictly reactive. Humans were beginning to project awareness, intention, and insight onto the world around them. The stage was being set for more sophisticated forms of cognition, including mathematics, ritual, and cosmological speculation. Language, a cornerstone of consciousness, amplified these capacities. The development of syntax, metaphor, and abstract vocabulary allowed humans to communicate ideas across time and space, embedding knowledge in shared narratives. Oral traditions preserve practical information, cosmological models, and moral frameworks. These stories were not mere entertainment. They encoded relationships, patterns, and principles essential to survival and understanding. At the same time, they cultivated the human imagination, fostering the ability to conceive of worlds beyond immediate perception. Language became a tool for symbolic reasoning, a medium for grappling with reality in ways that would ultimately underpin complex societies and monumental constructions. With symbolic thought came the ability to imagine and manipulate abstract concepts, including time, causality, and the unseen forces governing nature. Early humans began to recognize patterns in celestial movements, seasonal cycles, and environmental phenomena. The shift from mere observation to conceptual modeling reflects a qualitative leap in cognition. No longer limited to immediate sensory input, humans could anticipate, infer, and theorize. This cognitive capacity underpins the evolution of mathematics, astronomy, and metaphysics, forming the foundation for later civilizations to encode cosmic understanding in monuments, myths, and ritual. Anthropologists often describe this evolution as gradual, a slow accumulation of cognitive complexity shaped by natural selection. Yet the archaeological and cultural record occasionally hints at sudden bursts of innovation, artistic sophistication, and technological mastery that seem to appear almost spontaneously. The cave art of Lascaux emerges fully formed. The pyramids of Giza appear with astonishing precision, and the urban planning of the Indus Valley suggests an advanced understanding of proportion and organization, without a clear developmental precedent. These leaps challenge strict gradualism, suggesting that human cognition may occasionally access knowledge or capacities that exceed incremental evolutionary explanation. Could altered states of consciousness, ritualized practice, or hidden cognitive pathways have facilitated these breakthroughs? Neuroscience provides intriguing insights. The human brain is capable of altered states that expand perception, enhance pattern recognition, and modulate the sense of time and space. Meditation, trance, and sensory deprivation experiments reveal that cognition is flexible, capable of perceiving relationships and patterns that elude ordinary awareness. These altered states may have been central to early cultural innovation, allowing humans to synthesize observation, intuition, and symbolic reasoning in ways that produce sudden leaps in understanding. Such experiences are often dismissed as subjective or anecdotal, yet they provide a plausible mechanism for accelerated insight in both practical and cosmological domains. The emergence of complex societies reflects the externalization of these cognitive capacities. Agricultural innovation, social hierarchies, and urban planning required coordination, foresight, and shared symbolic frameworks. Writing systems emerged to encode knowledge, from accounting and trade to astronomical observation and spiritual instruction. These developments are evidence not only of practical intelligence, but of a capacity to represent and manipulate abstract systems. The interplay between individual cognition and collective organization amplified human potential, creating a feedback loop in which knowledge, culture, and consciousness co-evolved. Some scholars propose that these cognitive leaps may have enabled early humans to perceive aspects of reality that modern science is only now beginning to formalize. Ancient texts, myths, and monuments suggest an awareness of cycles, resonance, and interconnection. The precision of pyramids, the harmonic ratios in temple construction, and the cosmological alignment of cities may reflect insights accessed through enhanced consciousness, rather than solely through incremental trial and error. In this view, human evolution is not merely biological or social. It is also epistemological, involving the gradual and episodic unlocking of deeper ways of knowing. Interconnectedness is a recurring theme. In Vedanta, all beings share the same underlying consciousness. Taoism emphasizes the unity of opposites and the flow of energy, qi, through all things. Hermeticism describes a cosmos in which every action, however small, reverberates across levels of existence. Modern physics echoes these principles in the behavior of entangled particles, quantum fields permeating space, and the recognition that no object exists in isolation from its environment. The boundaries between observer and observed, self and universe, collapse in both ancient philosophy and quantum mechanics, challenging deeply ingrained intuitions about separateness, autonomy, and independence. The illusion of separateness, central to Vedantic and Taoist thought, parallels the philosophical implications of quantum theory. In both, reality is not fully localized. Its apparent solidity and individuation emerge through interaction, observation, or participation. Wave functions, probability amplitudes, and entangled states suggest that objects are not inherently isolated, but derive meaning and behavior from relational context. Ancient philosophy framed this insight experientially. Through meditation, contemplation, and moral practice, individuals could perceive the unity beneath apparent multiplicity. Modern physics frames it mathematically, but the conceptual echo is unmistakable. Across millennia, human inquiry has consistently pointed toward the interdependent, participatory nature of reality. Contrast framing is critical. Philosophical traditions offer experiential, symbolic, and narrative methods for exploring reality. Science demands empirical observation, reproducible experimentation, and mathematical formalism. At first glance, the approaches seem opposed. One emphasizes intuition and experience, the other precision and measurement. Yet the convergence of insights suggests a deeper alignment. Both ancient philosophers and modern physicists grapple with the same fundamental questions: the nature of reality, the limits of perception, and the relationship between the individual and the cosmos. Where philosophy provides context, meaning, and guidance for subjective experience, science provides testable models, predictive power, and objective verification. Together, they form complementary perspectives, illuminating different facets of a singular profound mystery. Time, a concept central to all three traditions, offers another compelling parallel. Vedanta and Taoism perceive reality as cyclical, with events and energies recurring across vast scales. Hermeticism emphasizes correspondence between temporal cycles in the microcosm and macrocosm. Quantum physics and cosmology challenge linear conceptions of time, revealing phenomena in which causality is non-intuitive, temporal order can be ambiguous, and cyclic or emergent processes govern fundamental systems. The ancient perception of time as fluid, relational, and recurrent resonates with these findings, suggesting that intuitive or experiential cognition can grasp structural truths that formal science later articulates. This parallel invites awe, illustrating that human consciousness has long been capable of perceiving patterns that transcend ordinary observation. Philosophy and science also intersect in the recognition of hidden or underlying reality. In Vedanta, Brahman underlies all appearances. In Taoism, the Tao flows unseen beneath phenomena. In Hermeticism, soul correspondences govern observable events. Modern physics identifies hidden variables, quantum fields, and probabilistic structures that govern the behavior of matter and energy. The methodological expressions differ. Mysticism emphasizes meditation and experiential knowledge. Physics relies on measurement and theory, but the conceptual landscape is remarkably similar. Both traditions recognize that the apparent world is a manifestation of deeper, often invisible principles, accessible through disciplined perception, reasoning, or inquiry. Narrative suspense emerges when considering whether ancient sages intuited principles that modern scientists struggle to formalize. Did meditative insight, ritual practice, or symbolic reasoning provide access to patterns of interconnectedness, non-locality, or multidimensionality? Could the recurring emphasis on cycles, resonance, and correspondence in ancient texts reflect experiential knowledge of principles now expressed as quantum entanglement, wave functions, or cosmic oscillations? The question tantalizes, bridging millennia and methodologies. The possibility that human consciousness, guided by observation and contemplation, has repeatedly glimpsed truths that defy conventional linear explanation. The cinematic tension deepens when we consider the limits of empirical verification. Ancient philosophy provides qualitative insight, emphasizing experiential understanding and internal coherence. Science provides quantitative measurement, predictive capability, and reproducible evidence. Together, these approaches illuminate reality from complementary perspectives. Ancient teachings often encode principles symbolically, requiring interpretation and reflection, whereas science formalizes principles in equations and experiments. Yet both converge on fundamental ideas: unity, interconnection, cyclical processes, and the participatory role of observation. The resonance between these domains underscores a profound human pursuit, the desire to comprehend the cosmos and our place within it. Modern cosmology adds further dimension. The universe, vast and ancient, exhibits patterns that echo philosophical insight: interdependence of matter and energy, emergence of complex structures from probabilistic interactions, and cyclical processes of formation and decay. Quantum theory reveals non-local correlations, uncertainty, and the role of observation in shaping outcomes. These discoveries mirror the conceptual frameworks of Vedanta, Taoism, and Hermeticism: the dissolution of separateness, the interplay of opposites, and the participatory role of consciousness. Across epochs, human inquiry has repeatedly converged on the notion that reality is relational, dynamic, and fundamentally interconnected. The comparison illuminates not only the content of ancient wisdom, but its method. Philosophy, meditation, and contemplative practice provide tools for accessing insight directly, cultivating awareness of patterns, interconnection, and cycles. Science formalizes these observations, testing them rigorously and expressing them quantitatively. In this interplay, ancient sages and modern physicists occupy different points on a continuum, One prioritizes direct experience, the other empirical verification. Both strive to map the underlying order of reality, confronting the limits of perception, cognition, and conceptualization. Ultimately, the parallels suggest a continuity of human understanding. Ancient philosophy and modern science, separated by millennia and methodology, may converge on the same fundamental truths: that reality is interconnected, multidimensional, and participatory; that time and causality are relational and cyclical; and that observation and consciousness are integral to the manifestation of phenomena. These insights inspire awe, inviting us to reconsider the boundaries between mystical intuition and empirical discovery, between symbolic representation and mathematical formalism, between experience and measurement thought. By comparing ancient philosophical systems with modern physics, we glimpse a continuum of human inquiry, from the meditative insights of sages to the experimental rigor of scientists, all grappling with the same fundamental questions. The unity, interconnection, and cyclical patterns observed by philosophers resonate with the entanglement, superposition, and cosmic oscillations explored by physicists. The tension between literal and metaphorical, experiential and empirical, becomes a narrative bridge, highlighting the enduring human pursuit of understanding and suggesting that consciousness itself may be the common thread linking these domains. As we reflect on these parallels, the stage is set for deeper exploration, the integration of symbolic, philosophical, and scientific insight into the architecture of ancient knowledge. If human consciousness has long perceived patterns now formalized in modern physics, then monuments, texts, rituals, and symbols may represent not just cultural artifacts, but repositories of experiential wisdom. The next chapter will investigate how this knowledge manifests in practice, bridging human cognition, architecture, and cosmic awareness, and preparing us to ask a central question: did ancient civilizations encode a kind of forgotten quantum wisdom that resonates across time? In the shadow of ancient monuments, esoteric texts, and tantalizing parallels with modern physics, skepticism emerges like a necessary counterpoint. Scholars and scientists caution against leaping from metaphor to mechanism, from allegory to proof. The temptation to claim lost quantum wisdom or extraterrestrial influence is seductive. It appeals to our desire for awe, mystery, and significance. Yet disciplined inquiry demands restraint, precision, and the rigorous evaluation of evidence. The tension between imaginative speculation and critical reasoning forms the heart of this discussion. How do we balance wonder with skepticism without dismissing the profound mysteries that these ancient civilizations present? Critics often argue that apparent knowledge in ancient civilizations can be explained through incremental human ingenuity. The precision of the pyramids, the alignment of Stonehenge, or the geometry of Teotihuacan, they claim, reflects careful observation, empirical trial and error, and cultural transmission over generations. Human societies are capable of remarkable feats, given time, cooperation, and cumulative knowledge. The patterns we observe, harmonic ratios, celestial alignments, or sophisticated mathematics, may not require hidden wisdom or advanced physics. They may be the natural outcome of intelligence applied over millennia. From this perspective, the mysteries dissolve, replaced by an appreciation for human skill, perseverance, and ingenuity. Yet, even within conventional explanations, gaps remain. How did societies achieve extraordinary precision without advanced tools? How did they synchronize monumental projects with astronomical cycles? Skeptics suggest plausible, mundane solutions: primitive surveying instruments, careful observation of shadows and stars, or generational knowledge transfer, but admit that some details remain difficult to explain fully. This uncertainty opens a space for speculation, but one that must be approached cautiously. Here lies the central tension: acknowledging gaps without automatically invoking mystical, metaphysical, or alien explanations. Critical thinking requires both curiosity and restraint, weighing evidence, assessing probability, and avoiding the seduction of narrative coherence where data is sparse. Sensationalist interpretations often amplify minor correlations into sweeping claims. Writers and theorists have proposed that ancient monuments encode advanced physics, lost technologies, or cosmic secrets beyond the comprehension of their creators. Some suggest that myths are literal accounts of multidimensional awareness, or that esoteric texts contain hidden formulas for manipulating reality. While these claims capture the imagination, they often rest on selective readings, confirmation bias, and leaps of inference. By contrast, disciplined scholarship emphasizes context, cultural practices, symbolic frameworks, and historical continuity. The challenge is to maintain awe and curiosity without sacrificing intellectual rigor, recognizing the difference between evidence-based hypothesis and imaginative extrapolation. Potential misinterpretations abound. Ancient texts are often metaphorical, allegorical, or context-specific, their meanings encoded in ritual, symbolism, or social instruction. Applying modern concepts like quantum physics or multidimensionality risks anachronism, projecting contemporary knowledge onto ancient frameworks. Similarly, architectural alignments may be significant culturally or astronomically, but not necessarily indicative of advanced theoretical understanding. Skeptics remind us that correlation is not causation. Patterns may reflect practical necessity, aesthetic preference, or coincidental symmetry rather than deliberate encoding of cosmic principles. The human tendency to see meaningful patterns, even where none objectively exist, is both a cognitive strength and a source of interpretive error. The human drive to find meaning in cosmic patterns is powerful and pervasive. Across cultures and epochs, humans have sought to impose order on uncertainty, to interpret cycles, and to discern purpose in the cosmos. This inclination shapes both myth and science. It fosters insight, creativity, and exploration, yet can also lead to wishful thinking, confirmation bias, and the projection of desired patterns onto ambiguous evidence. The tension between imagination and disciplined reasoning is central to understanding controversies in ancient knowledge studies. Awe, inspiration, and narrative coherence may bias perception, but they also reflect a deep human engagement with mystery, a desire to connect consciousness with the cosmos, perception with pattern, and self with the universe. Evidence itself has limitations. Archaeological findings are fragmentary, texts are incomplete, and interpretation is mediated through cultural and linguistic translation. Even precise measurements of monuments or alignments do not conclusively demonstrate intent or understanding of advanced physics. Gaps in the record are often filled with speculation, sometimes justified, sometimes excessive. The challenge is to distinguish between legitimate inference, informed by patterns and comparative analysis, and unfounded extrapolation, fueled by imagination rather than empirical support. Critical thinking requires transparency about assumptions, careful evaluation of alternative explanations, and acknowledgement of uncertainty. Skeptics also emphasize the importance of reproducibility and falsifiability. In science, claims must be testable. In archaeology and anthropology, interpretation should be consistent with material evidence and cultural context. Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. When proponents suggest that ancient civilizations understood quantum mechanics, harnessed energy fields, or perceived multidimensional reality, they must provide documentation, methodology, or demonstrable patterns that withstand rigorous scrutiny. The absence of such evidence does not negate wonder or inquiry. It simply frames speculation as provisional, encouraging ongoing exploration rather than premature certainty. Counterpoints are not limited to outright skepticism. They also encompass alternative explanations that remain plausible yet underexplored. Architectural precision could reflect advanced empirical observation and incremental improvement. Mythological allegory could encode social, agricultural, or cosmological knowledge without implying metaphysical mastery. Symbolic geometry might reflect aesthetic, spiritual, or ritual principles rather than universal constants. Considering these alternatives allows for a nuanced understanding, acknowledging human capability while maintaining the possibility of insight or intuition that transcends ordinary experience. The interplay of evidence, interpretation, and imagination forms a spectrum rather than a binary. The debate itself is revealing, highlighting the tension between measurable fact and narrative allure. Odd-riven interpretations emphasize possibility, mystery, and continuity of insight across civilizations. Skeptical perspectives emphasize methodological rigor, contextual fidelity, and empirical verification. Both approaches have value. One inspires curiosity and exploration. The other safeguards against error and overreach. Together, they cultivate a dynamic inquiry, a balance between wonder and discipline. Maintaining this balance allows the audience to engage deeply with the mystery while remaining grounded in rational assessment of cinematic tension that drives narrative suspense and intellectual engagement. Controversies also underscore the cognitive biases inherent in interpretation. Humans naturally seek patterns, meaning, and coherence. This tendency, called apophenia, can generate insights but also false connections. Projection of modern concepts onto ancient contexts exemplifies this risk. Similarly, confirmation bias can amplify selective data while disregarding contradictory evidence. Awareness of these biases is essential in evaluating claims of ancient knowledge, quantum allegories, or multidimensional insight. The same mechanisms that enable discovery and creativity also create the potential for error, reminding us that critical thinking is inseparable from curiosity and imagination. Despite these limitations, controversy does not diminish the value of inquiry, it amplifies it. Skepticism encourages deeper investigation, rigorous analysis, and careful documentation. Speculation fosters imaginative engagement, pattern recognition, and hypothesis generation. The tension between these poles, imaginative possibility and methodological caution, drives both science and philosophy. In the context of ancient civilizations, this dynamic allows us to explore not only the achievements of the past, but also the enduring questions about consciousness, cosmology, and the nature of reality. The interplay of awe and scrutiny becomes part of the story itself, inviting viewers to participate in the process of exploration. Awe-driven speculation and disciplined inquiry are not mutually exclusive. They are complementary. By acknowledging the limits of evidence, we prevent overreach. By embracing imagination, we open the door to insight. Both approaches allow us to engage with ancient monuments, texts, and philosophical parallels in ways that respect historical context while exploring profound questions. The human impulse to connect, interpret, and understand is not undermined by skepticism. It is refined, deepened, and directed towards sustainable inquiry. In this way, controversy becomes productive, shaping the narrative arc and intellectual rigor of our exploration. The cinematic tension between imagination and skepticism is heightened when considering the unknown. Gaps in historical knowledge, unexplained phenomena, and striking correlations provoke both awe and caution. Were ancient civilizations capable of hidden knowledge, intuitive insight, or experiential mastery of principles that science now formalizes? Skeptics demand evidence. Imaginative inquiry proposes possibility. Both perspectives illuminate different facets of human engagement with mystery, highlighting the interplay between what can be measured, what can be inferred, and what remains tantalizingly beyond reach. This tension sustains narrative suspense, drawing viewers into the exploration of possibility, evidence, and wonder. Ultimately, controversies and counterpoints teach us humility. The pursuit of understanding, whether through archaeology, anthropology, physics, or philosophy, requires acknowledgement of what is known, what is plausible, and what remains uncertain. It reminds us that human curiosity is both our greatest strength and our potential vulnerability, capable of profound insight, yet susceptible to error and projection. By balancing skepticism with imagination, we honor the achievements of ancient civilizations while preserving intellectual integrity. This balance allows us to appreciate mystery without abandoning reason, wonder without abandoning rigor, and possibility without abandoning critical thinking. As we navigate these debates, we are invited to reflect on the broader significance of inquiry. Controversies highlight the human drive to seek meaning in the cosmos, to detect patterns, and to bridge the gap between perception and reality. They reveal that awe, skepticism, and imagination are intertwined, each shaping the trajectory of understanding. By engaging with these counterpoints, viewers are encouraged to adopt a thoughtful, questioning stance, appreciating both the grandeur of human achievement and the limits of current knowledge. The dialogue itself becomes a narrative device, reinforcing the tension, suspense, and intellectual engagement that define the cinematic experience. The stage is now set for a transition from skepticism and debate to exploration of speculative horizons. What might ancient knowledge imply about the universe, consciousness, and the untapped potential of humanity? Controversies and counterpoints prepare us to navigate these frontiers with both curiosity and caution. They remind us that wonder must be tempered by reason, and that speculation is most powerful when grounded in disciplined inquiry. The narrative arc moves forward from measurable fact and critical analysis toward visionary exploration, keeping the audience engaged, reflective, and emotionally invested in the unfolding mystery. Imagine a world where human consciousness, observation, and technology were intertwined in ways that modern science is only beginning to glimpse. Picture ancient civilizations not merely as builders of stone and lore, but as explorers of reality itself, civilizations whose understanding of the cosmos extended beyond empirical observation into the domain of the quantum, the energetic, and the multidimensional. What if the pyramids, megalithic circles, and intricate urban grids were not only architectural feats, but instruments of resonance, consciousness amplification, and cosmic alignment? What if the myths, rituals, and esoteric texts encoded experiential knowledge of the universe, principles that could transform not only society, but the very perception of reality? This is the terrain of speculative horizons, a landscape where curiosity, imagination, and philosophical reflection converge. The first step in this exploration is to consider what it would mean for a civilization to understand quantum reality. At its core, quantum physics challenges the very assumptions of separateness, determinism, and linear causality. Superposition, entanglement, and the observer effect suggest that observation is not passive. It participates in shaping outcomes. For an ancient civilization to grasp these principles, even intuitively or symbolically, implies a radical expansion of consciousness. Knowledge would not be confined to formulas or instruments, but embodied in ritual, art, architecture, and social practice. Their monuments might have been designed not only to mark space and time, but to engage with subtle energetic structures of reality, amplifying awareness or catalyzing transformation. Consider technology in such a civilization. Conventional understanding limits us to tools built from physical materials and mechanical principles. But if consciousness and observation were integrated with material design, if awareness itself could influence energy or matter, then technology might be fundamentally different. Imagine resonant chambers designed to manipulate vibrational frequencies, harnessing natural harmonics to heal, enhance perception, or modify the environment. Picture observatories that are simultaneously laboratories of consciousness, where alignment with celestial cycles amplifies cognitive insight. In such a scenario, engineering and spirituality are inseparable. Mathematics, geometry, and harmonic ratios are applied not merely for structural stability, but for functional engagement with the energetic fabric of reality. Human potential, in this context, expands dramatically. If awareness can influence matter and perception, then the evolution of consciousness becomes a tool for practical application. Meditation, ritual, and symbolic practice may have served not only spiritual ends, but also cognitive and energetic optimization. Individuals trained in these disciplines could access heightened states of awareness, perceive interconnections invisible to ordinary cognition, and manipulate subtle forces. Education, leadership, and social organization would emphasize consciousness as a technology, cultivating faculties that modern neuroscience is only beginning to understand. Civilization itself becomes a laboratory of experience, where the evolution of mind, culture, and technology occurs in parallel. SYNERGISTICL. Why got historical outcomes, when viewed through this lens, acquire new depth. The construction of monumental architecture, the precise alignment of temples, and the encoding of sacred geometry suggest not only aesthetic or religious intent but also functional mastery of patterns and energies. Ancient texts, once interpreted as allegorical, might encode practical instructions for perception, alignment, or energetic interaction. The myths of gods, cosmological cycles, and transformative journeys could be experiential manuals, designed to cultivate awareness of principles now formalized as quantum phenomena, resonance, or multidimensionality. In this light, every ritual, artifact, and architectural alignment is a manifestation of knowledge, both philosophical and functional, symbolic and applied. Contrast this speculative horizon with known historical outcomes. In recorded history, civilizations have demonstrated remarkable ingenuity, yet the extraordinary potentials hinted at by monuments, texts, and myths remain largely dormant. Technologies that could harness energy through resonance, consciousness-driven perception, or multidimensional understanding are absent or perhaps forgotten. Societies have evolved under constraints of material survival, social organization, and incremental innovation. Yet the possibility remains that the human mind, when fully engaged with these latent principles, could access capabilities that radically alter cognition, perception, and societal structure. The question is not merely whether ancient civilizations really knew, but what knowledge was encoded, how it was transmitted, and what potentials lie dormant within human consciousness today. Cinematic imagination allows us to visualize these possibilities. Picture a city like Teotihuacan, animated not only with people, but with resonant energy fields, synchronized with celestial cycles. Envision temples and pyramids functioning as multidimensional observatories, amplifying cognitive insight and enabling interaction with subtle forces of nature. See initiates moving through ritual spaces, their consciousness attuned to harmonic ratios, observing, participating, and influencing energetic flows. Consider knowledge encoded in art and geometry, accessible to those trained in perception, creating an experiential bridge between material form and cosmic principle. These visions, though speculative, are grounded in the plausibility of human cognitive and creative potential. Philosophical reflection deepens the inquiry. If ancient humans understood aspects of reality that we are only beginning to formalize, what does this imply about the nature of knowledge itself? Is understanding a matter of intellectual accumulation, or can consciousness itself perceive principles directly, bypassing conventional learning? Are ancient myths, rituals, and architectural designs repositories of experiential insight, meant to cultivate awareness rather than merely convey information? These questions challenge conventional epistemology, suggesting that human cognition and the cosmos may be mutually participatory. The observer shapes reality, even as reality shapes perception, creating a dynamic interplay that extends across time and space. The ethical and societal implications of such knowledge are profound. The civilization attuned to quantum principles, consciousness, and resonance would structure itself differently. Leadership might be based on mastery of awareness and perception, rather than coercion or material accumulation. Education would cultivate not only knowledge, but experiential insight, integrating observation, meditation, and symbolic understanding. Technology would harmonize with natural and cosmic rhythms, minimizing disruption while amplifying potential. In this speculative horizon, society is not only materially sophisticated, but spiritually, cognitively, and energetically aligned to civilization, in which human potential is fully integrated with the principles of reality itself. Exploring the what-if scenario also invites reflection on the limitations of modern perspective. We tend to evaluate ancient civilizations through the lens of linear progress, material technology, and empirical documentation. This perspective risks underestimating the sophistication of symbolic, cognitive, and consciousness-based knowledge. What seems speculative today may have been pragmatic then practical, functional, and effective in ways that evade modern measurement. By suspending disbelief and considering alternate possibilities, we allow ourselves to engage with the latent potentials encoded in human cognition, culture, and architecture, opening pathways for understanding that blend imagination, empirical inquiry, and philosophical contemplation. Speculation, however, is not indulgence. It is methodical exploration of possibility constrained by reason. Patterns in architecture, myth, and ritual provide a framework for imagining what ancient knowledge might entail. Quantum principles, harmonic resonance, and multidimensional perspectives offer plausible mechanisms through which consciousness could interact with reality. By synthesizing these insights, we construct scenarios that, while hypothetical, are intellectually coherent, visually compelling, and philosophically profound. The narrative tension between what is known and what is possible drives both curiosity and wonder, inviting the audience to consider the latent capacities of human civilization and consciousness. One speculative horizon involves technology that integrates consciousness with energy manipulation. Imagine resonant devices capable of amplifying perception, facilitating healing, or enhancing cognitive capacity. Consider observatories designed not merely for astronomical observation, but for alignment with energetic currents, enabling enhanced intuition, predictive insight, or experiential understanding of quantum principles. In such a civilization, architecture, art, and ritual function as applied science, embedding practical knowledge in form, vibration, and symbolic structure. The implications extend beyond material achievement. They touch cognition, perception, and the human relationship to reality itself. Another horizon concerns human evolution itself. If ancient civilizations cultivated awareness aligned with cosmic and quantum principles, human potential may extend far beyond conventional limitations. Enhanced perception, intuition, and multidimensional awareness could emerge through disciplined practice, collective alignment, or exposure to structured environments designed to resonate with consciousness. Education, culture, and ritual would act as accelerators of cognitive evolution, creating individuals capable of perceiving interconnections, probabilities, and subtle energetic dynamics that elude ordinary awareness. The speculative possibility is staggering. A civilization that fully integrates mind, matter, and cosmos, not as metaphor, but as lived reality. Visualizing these scenarios cinematically amplifies the impact. Picture ancient cities glowing with harmonic resonance, monuments aligned not only to the sun and stars, but to subtle energetic flows. Observe initiates moving in synchrony with architectural design, perceiving patterns in vibration, geometry, and cosmic rhythm. Envision rituals, art, and music as interfaces with reality itself, creating experiential laboratories of cognition and perception. These images invite suspension of disbelief, allowing viewers to inhabit the speculative horizon, where human potential, consciousness, and cosmic order converge. The cinematic narrative transforms abstract possibility into tangible, immersive experience. The speculative horizon also challenges contemporary assumptions. We assume that modern science represents the apex of understanding, that technology and empirical methods define the limits of knowledge. Yet if ancient civilizations accessed principles of quantum reality, the scope of human potential may be far greater than recorded history suggests. By entertaining the what-if, we expand the parameters of inquiry, considering not only material, technological, and cognitive possibilities, but also the integration of consciousness as an active participant in shaping reality. This shift reframes both ancient history and contemporary aspiration, suggesting continuity of insight across millennia. Philosophical reflection anchors these explorations. Speculation is not mere fantasy. It is a tool for expanding perception, questioning assumptions, and probing the boundaries of understanding. By imagining civilizations that understood quantum reality, we confront fundamental questions: the nature of knowledge, the relationship between consciousness and matter, and the potential for human evolution beyond current limitations. These reflections connect the audience emotionally and intellectually to the narrative, transforming abstract speculation into meaningful inquiry that resonates with both science and philosophy. Ultimately, the speculative horizon illuminates possibility rather than certainty. It invites the audience to engage with questions that blend imagination, empirical patterns, and philosophical reflection. What knowledge did ancient civilizations truly possess? How might consciousness and observation shape reality in ways we have yet to formalize? What latent potentials exist within humanity that could be cultivated through awareness, alignment, and exploration? The journey is cinematic, intellectual, and existential, blending awe, curiosity, and reason into a cohesive narrative that prepares viewers for deeper inquiry into human potential, cosmic order, and the nature of reality. As we leave this horizon, the narrative begins its transition toward synthesis, integrating ancient wisdom, scientific inquiry, and philosophical reflection into a broader understanding of humanity's relationship with reality. The what-if scenario serves as both inspiration and context, reminding us that possibility is not proof, but an invitation to question, to explore, and to expand the boundaries of perception. In this speculative space, imagination and inquiry are allies, curiosity and rigor are partners, and the journey continues toward uncovering the profound, awe-inspiring connections between consciousness, cosmos, and civilization. As we emerge from the speculative horizon, the question shifts from what might have been to what could be. If ancient civilizations accessed insights into the structure of reality, consciousness, and the interplay between mind and matter, what lessons might we carry forward? The implications are both practical and philosophical, extending into science, ethics, society, and ecological stewardship. We stand at a crossroads. Modern civilization is defined by remarkable technological achievement, yet often disconnected from the holistic patterns that sustain life, consciousness, and planetary balance. Could integrating ancient wisdom with contemporary knowledge offer a roadmap for a future that is both advanced and harmonious? Modern science has achieved extraordinary precision in measuring, predicting, and manipulating the material world. Reductionist methods have yielded technologies unimaginable to previous generations, from quantum computing to space exploration. Yet, in its focus on isolated variables and measurable phenomena, conventional science can overlook interconnectedness, systemic patterns, and the participatory role of consciousness. Ancient philosophical systems, Vedanta, Taoism, Hermeticism emphasize relational awareness, cyclical processes, and the integration of mind and environment. By bridging these perspectives, we may discover new paradigms for understanding complex systems, enhancing human potential, and fostering ecological and social resilience. One immediate implication lies in the realm of consciousness studies. If awareness shapes perception, measurement, and possibly even outcomes at subtle levels, then cultivating consciousness is not a purely personal endeavor. It becomes a societal priority. Meditation, contemplative practice, and focused attention may not only improve individual well-being but also enhance collective understanding, problem-solving, and creativity. Ancient practices designed to expand perception, harmonize thought, and attune humans to natural and cosmic cycles could serve as tools for optimizing cognitive and societal function. Here, the wisdom of the past informs the technology of the mind, suggesting that progress is not only material but also perceptual. The integration of holistic principles has implications for science itself. Quantum mechanics and systems theory reveal that reality is relational, probabilistic, and interconnected. Ancient approaches that emphasize interdependence, resonance, and cyclical processes resonate with these findings. By adopting frameworks that incorporate both measurable phenomena and experiential insight, science can expand its explanatory power. For example, studying human cognition not solely as a neurological process but as an embodied, relational phenomenon aligns with both modern neuroscience and ancient philosophical perspectives. The fusion of empirical rigor and holistic awareness may allow more complete understanding of complex systems, from the brain to the biosphere. Ethics and social organization are also affected. Ancient civilizations often encoded moral and cosmological principles into ritual, governance, and daily life. Their structures emphasize balance, reciprocity, and alignment with natural cycles. Modern societies, in contrast, frequently prioritize short-term gain, material accumulation, and mechanistic efficiency. If ancient wisdom contains latent principles for sustaining harmony socially, ecologically, and cognitively, then we have an opportunity to integrate these insights into contemporary ethics. This could reshape governance, education, and public policy, creating societies that honor both individual potential and collective responsibility. Ecology is a domain where these implications become tangible. Indigenous and ancient practices often reflected intimate knowledge of ecological interdependence, seasonal cycles, and sustainable resource management. Contemporary environmental crises reveal the consequences of ignoring systemic interconnection. By re-examining ancient approaches through a lens that combines consciousness, quantum principles, and relational thinking, we may uncover strategies for ecological stewardship that are both innovative and deeply rooted in experiential wisdom. Ancient insight could provide not only moral guidance but practical frameworks for coexisting sustainably with the natural world. Technology, too, stands to benefit. Speculative horizons suggest that ancient civilizations may have integrated consciousness with material systems, using architecture, resonance, and geometry as instruments of function. Translating these ideas into contemporary practice may inspire new approaches to design, energy, and human-environment interaction. Imagine urban planning that aligns with natural harmonics, architecture that enhances cognitive and emotional well-being, or energy systems informed by principles of resonance and flow. These applications extend beyond metaphor. They invite a synthesis of science, consciousness, and design that is both imaginative and implementable. Human evolution itself becomes a key consideration. If cognition and consciousness can be cultivated to perceive patterns, interconnections, and probabilities that escape ordinary awareness, Then education and cultural practice are integral to development. Ancient civilizations emphasized initiation, mentorship, and experiential learning, guiding individuals to perceive beyond surface phenomena. Modern education, often narrowly focused on information transfer, may be enriched by practices that develop awareness, intuition, and relational understanding. The integration of contemplative practice, experiential learning, and scientific inquiry could accelerate both individual and collective evolution. This perspective reframes progress. Rather than defining advancement solely by material achievement, it invites a multidimensional conception. Technological sophistication coexisting with cognitive and ethical maturity, societal organization balanced with ecological attunement, and scientific insight integrated with philosophical wisdom. The lessons of ancient civilizations offer a blueprint. Mastery is not merely about accumulation of tools or knowledge, but about alignment with underlying principles, relational awareness, and the cultivation of consciousness as both instrument and guide. Modern society stands to gain by attending to this holistic framework. The interplay between science and spirituality becomes particularly salient. Ancient philosophical systems did not separate ethics, cosmology, and perception. They were integrated into a coherent worldview. Modern science often isolates these domains, focusing on measurable outcomes while neglecting meaning, purpose, and subjective experience. The convergence of ancient wisdom and contemporary discovery suggests that knowledge, ethics, and awareness are inseparable. Scientific inquiry, informed by philosophical and experiential insight, may produce technologies, policies, and cultural structures that are not only efficient but aligned with the rhythms and interconnectedness of life itself. The philosophical implications are profound. Ancient texts and monuments encode lessons about impermanence, cycles, and the participatory nature of reality. They suggest that human experience is not passive observation, but active engagement with the fabric of existence. Modern physics, by revealing uncertainty, entanglement, and observer effects, echoes this principle in the language of empirical measurement. By integrating these insights, we are invited to reconsider our assumptions about agency, causality, and potential. Human beings are not merely bystanders in the unfolding universe. We are co-creators, participants, and observers whose attention and intention shape reality in ways both subtle and profound. Cinematic reflection enhances these implications. Visualize a future where cities are designed with awareness of resonance and pattern. Education cultivates perception and ethical discernment, and ecological systems are managed in harmony with natural cycles. Imagine individuals trained to perceive subtle interconnections, capable of intuition and insight that complement scientific understanding. Consider societal structures that balance material achievement with cognitive and spiritual cultivation, creating civilizations that are resilient, adaptive, and deeply attuned to both human and cosmic rhythms. This vision merges speculation, philosophy, and practicality into a compelling narrative of possibility. The dialogue between reductionist and holistic approaches becomes critical. Reductionism excels at isolating variables, identifying causal mechanisms, and producing precise outcomes. Holism emphasizes patterns, relationships, and emergent properties. Ancient wisdom leaned toward holistic perception, while modern science emphasizes reductionist methodology. Integrating these approaches provides a pathway to understanding complexity at multiple scales, from quantum systems to ecological networks, from individual consciousness to societal organization. The lesson is clear. Neither approach alone suffices. The convergence of reductionist rigor with holistic awareness may enable humanity to navigate challenges and opportunities with unprecedented insight. Modern science may also benefit from the integration of ethical and consciousness-based frameworks. As we develop technologies of immense power, genetic editing, artificial intelligence, planetary engineering, the question of alignment becomes urgent. Ancient wisdom offers a model. Knowledge, awareness, and ethical discernment are inseparable. By considering the implications of consciousness, relationality, and cycles, we may guide technological innovation in ways that are not only effective but responsible, sustainable, and aligned with broader principles of harmony. The past, in this sense, informs not only possibility but stewardship. Finally, the implications for human identity are transformative. Ancient wisdom reminds us that we are not isolated atoms drifting through a void, but participants in a living, interdependent cosmos. Consciousness is both observer and agent, capable of perceiving, influencing, and co-creating reality. Integrating these insights encourage reflection on our place in the universe, the responsibilities of awareness, and the potential for evolution, cognitive, ethical, and spiritual. By learning from the interplay of ancient knowledge and modern discovery, we gain both humility and empowerment. Humility in recognizing the depth of the unknown, empowerment in perceiving the scope of latent potential. As we approach the conclusion, the implications of this exploration crystallize. Ancient wisdom, interpreted through the lens of contemporary science, provides guidance for living, thinking, and evolving in harmony with the universe. Consciousness, cognition, and observation are not peripheral, they are central. Technology, society, and ecology can benefit from holistic frameworks that honor interconnectedness, cycles, and the participatory nature of reality. The dialogue between science and philosophy, skepticism and wonder, evidence and speculation, shapes a roadmap for navigating the future, one that is intellectually rigorous, ethically grounded, and profoundly inspiring. In contemplating these implications, we are invited to integrate curiosity, imagination, and discernment into our engagement with reality. Ancient civilizations may not provide explicit formulas for manipulating quantum fields or consciousness, but they offer enduring principles: attention, alignment, pattern recognition, and ethical participation. These principles, when combined with modern knowledge, create opportunities to expand human potential, enhance understanding, and foster a civilization attuned to both material and cosmic order. The journey is ongoing, and the horizon is vast, but the lessons are clear. Wisdom is not only discovered, it is cultivated, integrated, and enacted. This synthesis of ancient insight and contemporary science prepares us for a final reflection, a cinematic moment of awe, wonder, and philosophical closure. The audience is invited to see the continuity of human endeavor across millennia, to perceive the interplay of mind, matter, and cosmos, and to contemplate the possibilities of consciousness fully engaged with reality. The implications of ancient wisdom for today and tomorrow are not theoretical abstractions. They are practical, ethical, and existential challenges and opportunities, offering guidance for both individual and collective evolution. As our journey comes full circle, we return to the questions that first beckoned us. Could ancient civilizations have glimpsed truths about reality that modern science is only beginning to uncover? Did their monuments, myths, and rituals encode knowledge of consciousness, quantum principles, or the fabric of the cosmos itself? And if so, what does this mean for us modern observers navigating a world defined by technology, empirical evidence, and fragmented understanding? These questions remain unresolved, suspended between certainty and possibility, evidence and imagination, science and mystery. Yet in that suspension lies their power, a call to curiosity, reflection, and wonder. Throughout this exploration, we've traced the footsteps of knowledge, examining the astonishing achievements of ancient civilizations, the precise alignment of pyramids, the celestial geometry of Stonehenge, and the architectural sophistication of Teotihuacan. We have explored myths and texts, symbols and rituals, contemplating whether they encode experiential understanding of reality rather than literal formulas. We have ventured into modern physics, discovering parallels between superposition, entanglement, and the observer effect, and ancient philosophical systems that emphasized interconnection, cycles, and the participatory nature of existence. Step by step, the tapestry of human inquiry has unfolded, revealing an intricate interplay between observation, consciousness, and the cosmos. Yet, as Section 9 reminded us, skepticism remains a vital companion on this journey. The human mind is drawn to patterns, stories, and coherence, sometimes projecting meaning where none objectively exists. Sensationalist claims can distort both history and understanding, emphasizing narrative allure over evidence. Critical thinking tempers awe, ensuring that our curiosity remains grounded in reason. The tension between evidence and imagination, the measured rigor of science and the expansive possibilities of speculation is not a flaw but a defining feature of the quest for knowledge. It challenges us to hold multiple perspectives at once, the known and the unknown, the measurable and the mysterious, the literal and the symbolic. Speculative horizons have allowed us to imagine alternate possibilities. If ancient civilizations truly possessed insights into quantum reality, consciousness, and resonance, the implications are staggering. Advanced cognitive capacities, technologies integrated with awareness, and societies harmonized with natural and cosmic rhythms. Whether historical evidence supports such scenarios remains uncertain, but the exercise itself illuminates potential trajectories for human understanding and evolution. By contemplating what if, we expand the conceptual space in which human potential can emerge, bridging imagination, philosophy, and science in a way that is both intellectually rigorous and emotionally compelling. Consciousness emerges as the central thread throughout this narrative. From observer effects in quantum mechanics to meditative practices in ancient traditions, awareness appears not merely as passive witness, but as an active participant in shaping reality. The suggestion is not mystical in the sense of untestable dogma. Rather, it highlights a recurring theme across human history. Perception matters. The act of observing, attending, and participating may alter the very phenomena we seek to understand, whether in the laboratory, the temple, or the mind itself. Ancient civilizations may have encoded this understanding in ritual, architecture, and symbolic systems, and modern science is beginning to echo similar principles through the language of probability. Entanglement and relational physics dot our reflections on ancient wisdom. Modern science and speculative possibility converge on a broader philosophical insight. Reality may be far more participatory than commonly assumed. Matter, energy, consciousness, and observation may form a dynamic interplay, co-creating the universe in subtle but profound ways. Cyclical time, interconnection, and resonance appear repeatedly in both myth and physics, suggesting that human experience can access patterns otherwise invisible to ordinary cognition. The challenge and the opportunity is to cultivate perception, curiosity, and awareness so that these patterns may be discerned and understood, extending human potential while honoring the mysteries that remain. Ethically and existentially, this conclusion has implications for how we live and relate to the world. Recognizing interconnectedness encourages stewardship of the environment, empathy for fellow beings, and responsibility for our choices. Understanding consciousness as participatory invites reflection on attention, intention, and action. Ancient civilizations, through their rituals, monuments, and symbolic systems, offer models of integration, ethical, spiritual, and intellectual principles embedded in everyday life. Modern society, by contrast, often privileges technological mastery and material accumulation over relational and ecological harmony. Bridging these perspectives may provide guidance for navigating complex contemporary challenges, integrating awareness, ethics, and science into a coherent path forward. The narrative arc comes full circle when we consider the aesthetic and emotional dimensions of awe. The pyramids rise not only as feats of engineering, but as statements of aspiration, vision, and alignment with cosmic patterns. Myths and texts resonate across centuries, encoding questions, principles, and insights that continue to inspire inquiry. Modern science uncovers patterns in nature that evoke similar wonder. Quantum entanglement, the vast interconnectedness of ecosystems, and the cyclical rhythms of galaxies. This convergence of beauty, mystery, and understanding creates a cinematic resonance, reminding us that the pursuit of knowledge is inseparable from the experience of awe itself. Cinematic imagery reinforces this philosophical and emotional synthesis. Picture the sun rising over the Giza Plateau, shadows aligning with ancient corridors, and the stars overhead tracing paths of myth and mathematics. Imagine meditative practitioners in ancient temples, perceiving subtle flows of energy, engaged in observation that merges the personal with the cosmic. Visualize quantum systems, entangled particles, and oscillating waves as invisible threads, linking human cognition to the fabric of reality. Through such imagery, the audience is invited to inhabit the tension between measurable fact and speculative possibility, bridging the inner and outer worlds in a shared experience of wonder. The tension between skepticism and speculation, evidence and imagination, is not resolved. It is embraced. The narrative leaves questions unanswered, not as deficiencies, but as invitations to further exploration. Curiosity becomes the guiding principle, the willingness to observe, question, and contemplate without premature closure. Science provides methods, measurement, and prediction. Philosophy provides context, meaning, and reflection. Imagination expands the horizon of what might be possible. Together, these modes of inquiry form a dynamic continuum, each illuminating aspects of reality that the others cannot fully encompass alone. Returning to the initial hook, we see that the mystery remains eternal. Could ancient humans have perceived truths about reality that elude modern science? Did they encode knowledge of consciousness, energy, and the cosmos in ways that are now partially visible through architecture, myth, and ritual? And most importantly, how does this knowledge, actual or speculative, inform our present and shape our potential? The questions are open-ended, designed to persist beyond the screen, encouraging reflection, dialogue, and further investigation. Their power lies not in definitive answers, but in their capacity to expand perception and deepen engagement with the universe. The existential dimension of this conclusion invites contemplation of humanity's place in the cosmos. We are observers, participants, and co-creators, capable of perception that resonates with subtle patterns of reality. Our civilizations, ancient and modern, reflect attempts to understand, align with, and influence the cosmos, yet they also reveal the limits of our knowledge. The interplay between what is known, what is plausible, and what remains mysterious creates a space for reflection on humility, potential, and the continuity of human inquiry. In embracing this space, we participate in a dialogue that transcends time, linking the aspirations of past civilizations with the explorations of the present and the possibilities of the future. Philosophically, the eternal question challenges us to reconcile opposites, certainty and uncertainty, empirical measurement and experiential insight, individual perception and cosmic order. It reminds us that knowledge is not static but emergent, evolving as human cognition and awareness expand. The patterns glimpsed by ancient civilizations, echoed in modern physics, and imagined in speculative horizons, invite recognition that reality is multi-layered, participatory, and profoundly interconnected. To engage with this insight is to accept both the power and responsibility of consciousness, to observe, to inquire, and to act with awareness of consequences across time, space, and relational context. As we draw the narrative to its cinematic close, the audience is left suspended in awe. The mysteries of consciousness, reality, and ancient knowledge are not solved. They are illuminated, probed, and reflected upon. Each viewer is invited to continue the exploration, to cultivate awareness, and to question assumptions. The call is existential as well as intellectual, to consider one's role in the unfolding cosmos, the possibilities latent in human potential, and the responsibility inherent in perception. In this final synthesis, evidence and imagination, skepticism and speculation, wonder and reflection converge, leaving a lingering resonance that extends beyond the documentary itself. The final moments return to the visual and symbolic motifs that opened our journey. The sun rising over monumental stone, stars tracing arcs across the night sky, the subtle rhythm of nature reflected in geometry, ritual, and consciousness. The ancient and the modern, the material and the metaphysical, the observed and the observer are all intertwined. The eternal question is both invitation and challenge. To perceive, to wonder, to engage, and ultimately, to participate consciously in the unfolding story of reality. By embracing this duality, we honor the wisdom of the past, the rigor of the present, and the limitless potential of the future dawned in leaving this narrative space. The audience is not provided with closure in the traditional sense. Instead, they are offered continuity, an open-ended dialogue with reality, an encouragement to explore, question, and integrate insights from science, philosophy, and speculation. The mystery persists not as frustration, but as opportunity, an enduring invitation to cultivate curiosity, expand perception, and recognize the interconnectedness of all things. The journey we have undertaken together is a beginning, a lens through which to view ancient knowledge, modern discovery, and the vast potentials of human consciousness. Thus, the eternal question remains: what lies beyond the limits of current understanding? How might consciousness, observation, and human ingenuity continue to reshape our grasp of reality? What can we learn from civilizations long past? And how can their insights inform the trajectory of humanity? These questions echo across time, inviting each of us to participate, observe, and reflect. In this space, awe is both catalyst and guide. Skepticism and imagination are allies, and the search for understanding becomes an ongoing, participatory act, a dialogue with the cosmos itself. The closing vision is cinematic, philosophical, and emotionally resonant. A montage of stars, monuments, human endeavor, and consciousness in motion. The dance of matter, mind, and observation. The enduring mystery of existence juxtaposed with the curiosity, courage, and creativity of humanity. In this final act, viewers are left with a profound sense of wonder, a call to explore, and a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is inseparable from the experience of awe. The eternal question does not demand an answer. It demands engagement, reflection, and conscious participation. And in that engagement, the journey continues endlessly across time, space, and consciousness.